Okay, so today we're going to be talking about plot. We're going to talk about what comes to mind when we hear the word plot. Then we're going to define the word plot, find a good definition for it, and then finally today we're going to figure out what moves a story's plot. Okay, what words come to mind when we hear the word plot? We think about words like story, things are happening, events, and that the plot is usually in a novel or narrative. However, today we're going to try to give a good definition to the word plot. So, what is a good definition? A good definition, and the definition that we're going to be using in this class, is that plot is the arrangement of ideas and/or incidents that make up a story. It's what happens, who it happens to, and when it happens. An example of a plot is that it usually starts out with an introduction, then there's usually rising action, we're building up to a problem, and then there's a climax, which is a problem, and then we're trying to solve the problem, which is a falling action, and then finally it gets resolved. So, what moves a story's plot? This is what we're most concerned with. Well, first, a conflict within the story is something that the plot is usually centered around. And a character is motivated to do something. This motivation could be good or bad. So after we read a story, or while we're reading a story, we should ask ourselves, what is the conflict in this story, or what's the conflict going to be in this story? Another question we should ask ourselves is, why would this character do what he or she does? What's his or her motivation? Because remember, motive is what moves a plot along. And so, that's what we're going to be discussing today for the short story that we read. What the conflict is, why the characters do what they do, what their motivation is. Right, so let's move on. We'll discuss this in our small groups.